Have you ever wondered how young a person can be and still rewrite the destiny of an entire nation? Before you try to answer, imagine a kingdom where the truth has been buried for generations, where the sound of real worship has faded into smoke, where the people wander like sleepwalkers through a world of idols and forgotten promises. Imagine a temple once filled with glory, now standing like an old drum with no heartbeat. And now imagine a child climbing into a throne meant for a warrior. His feet don't even touch the marble floor. His crown feels heavier than his whole body. His name is Josiah, a quiet 8-year-old boy with eyes too bright for a kingdom so dark. He doesn't know it yet, but destiny has already wrapped its fingers around his small shoulders. He wanders the palace halls like someone searching for a melody he has never heard before. Every corridor whispers secrets, every dusty corner holds a story, and though he cannot explain it, he feels the weight of a calling he never asked for. The kingdom around him is wounded. The elders shake their heads in silence. The priests speak, but their words feel thin. And outside the palace gates, idols stand on the hills like silent thieves, stealing the heart of the people one day at a time. Josiah listens, not to the voices around him, but to something deeper, a whisper that seems to rise from the ancient stones beneath his feet. It's as if the land itself is waiting for him. As he grows, the whisper becomes a pull, a steady, unseen hand guiding him. When he turns 16, something awakens in him like morning breaking open. He begins to seek the God he has only heard stories about, not out of tradition but out of hunger. He searches for truth the way a thirsty traveler searches for water. Slowly he begins tearing down the idols around the kingdom, each one breaking with a sound like chains snapping. The people watch him with wide eyes. They see determination growing in him, firm and calm, like a young tree that refuses to bend in the wind. But Josiah knows the heart of the kingdom cannot be healed by broken stones alone. The temple, the very place meant to hold the presence of God, lies neglected, cracked, abandoned. It feels like a chest full of treasure buried under years of forgetting, so he gathers the priests, the builders, the carpenters, and tells them to restore it, not decorate it, restore it, bring its heartbeat back. While the temple is being repaired, a strange discovery changes everything. One of the priests finds a scroll hidden deep within the ruins, a book no one alive has ever read. Dust clings to it like a second skin. When they bring it to Josiah, the room seems to still itself. The scroll is unrolled, and the words spill out like thunder and memory mixed together. It is the book of the law, a message from a forgotten past, a mirror reflecting how far the people have wandered. As Josiah listens, something inside him breaks, not in weakness, in clarity. He feels the weight of the nation's sins pressing on him, like a storm cloud ready to burst. He tears his royal clothes, not out of shame but out of awakening. He sends messengers to seek a prophet, desperate for understanding, desperate for direction. The prophet Huldah speaks with a voice that feels both sharp and tender. She tells him the kingdom will face consequences for generations of rebellion, consequences already written in their history. But she also tells him something unexpected. Because Josiah's heart is soft, because he listened, because he humbled himself, he will be spared the destruction to come. Josiah doesn't take this as a relief. He takes it as a mission. Like a torchbearer in a long-abandoned cave, he runs full speed toward reform. He calls the entire nation to gather. From the oldest elder to the youngest child, the people stand shoulder to shoulder before the temple, waiting. Then Josiah reads the words of the scroll aloud. Not with the voice of a king, but with the voice of someone offering the people their own forgotten heartbeat. As the words drift across the crowd, something unseen lifts. Something ancient wakes. The people agree to return to their covenant. And Josiah becomes unstoppable. He tears down altars that had stood for centuries. He crushes idols that once controlled cities. He burns objects of false worship until they melt into nothing. Even the high places, the ones untouched by kings before him, fall beneath his determination. It is as if he is cleaning the nation room by room, chasing out old shadows with fire and conviction. Then comes the Passover, the first faithful one in generations. Josiah commands it to be observed with fullness, with joy, with truth. The entire kingdom celebrates together, a sound rising to the heavens like the return of a long-lost song. For a moment Judah feels alive again, like a land washed clean after years of drought. But history has its storms, and even the brightest kings cannot stop them all. When Josiah hears of a foreign army passing through the land, He sees danger ahead for his people. Despite warnings, despite pleas, he rides out to face the threat. His courage has never known hesitation, and on the battlefield of Megiddo, destiny meets him with a sharp and sorrowful edge. Josiah is struck. His servants race to carry him back to Jerusalem. The city mourns before the news is even fully spoken. A king who brought light into dark places now fades like a sunset, swallowed too quickly by night. The nation weeps deeply, loudly, with a grief that shakes the stones of the city. Even the prophet Jeremiah writes laments for Josiah, words soaked in sorrow for a king who tried to turn an entire world back to truth. Yet Josiah's story does not end in the dust of Megiddo. His legacy breathes in every generation that reads his name. He remains a reminder that courage is not measured by age, that leadership is not born from strength, but from a willing heart, and that one young soul can tilt the future toward hope. And perhaps the question that opened this story still lingers in the air. How young can a person be and still change the destiny of a nation? Josiah's life whispers the answer. Young enough to start listening, brave enough to start changing, and humble enough to let truth guide every step. Yet even after his body is laid in the royal tomb, and the echoes of mourning fade into the stone walls, Josiah's influence refuses to stay buried. It moves like a quiet river beneath the nation's feet. The elders tell his story in the marketplaces, shaping their hands in the air like sculptors trying to carve his memory into the hearts of the young. Mothers whisper his name into the ears of newborns, hoping courage might settle into their bones the way light settles into morning windows. And though the kingdom goes on, something has shifted. Something he awakened refuses to sleep again. The people walk past the rebuilt temple with a kind of reverence they had forgotten existed. When families gather at dusk, the fathers light their lamps not out of habit, but out of a strange gratitude, as if the flame itself reminds them of a king who once carried fire in his soul. Travelers passing through Judah speak of a new atmosphere, like the land has been washed with unseen rain. The hills, once scarred with idols, now stand open and clean, their stones breathing again. Even the wind feels different, lighter, freer, carrying the faint trace of a prayer Josiah might have whispered in his youth. And somewhere in the heart of Jerusalem, an old scribe sits beneath a lantern, copying the ancient scrolls. Josiah revived. His hands are wrinkled but steady. Every stroke of ink is a tribute. Every word is a promise that truth will not be lost again, that memory will not fade into dust, that the next child king, the next leader, the next dreamer will find the path, because Josiah cleared it with the swing of his small but fearless heart. Children who never met him pretend to be him when they play. They build thrones out of stones and stick crowns on their heads made of woven branches. One child stands on a hill outside the city and imitates Josiah, declaring the covenant to the people, his tiny voice cutting the air with surprising strength. The others cheer, not because they understand the covenant, but because they feel the echo of something noble calling from far beyond their own years. And sometimes, only sometimes, when the priests step into the temple at dawn, they pause. The sunlight pouring through the open doorway lands in the same place Josiah once stood. They can almost see him there, an 8-year-old boy with a fragile crown, a 16-year-old seeking God with trembling hands, a grown king with fire in his eyes, reading the ancient law to the people. They bow their heads not to him but to the God who shaped him, grateful for the unlikely vessel he chose. But history is never satisfied with a single chapter. Time rolls forward with patient, relentless feet, and in the years that follow, some will remember Josiah with clarity, and some will drift again toward the shadows he fought so fiercely to destroy. Yet his story clings to their conscience like the scent of rain on dry soil, hard to forget, impossible to ignore. Because Josiah was not simply a king, he was a mirror. He showed a nation who they truly were, and who they could become. He showed that conviction is louder than tradition, that truth is stronger than forgotten rituals, that a single heart, young, determined, humble, can pull an entire people back from the edge. And if you listen closely, even now, the story still speaks, not from temples or scrolls or ancient stones, but from the quiet corners of your own spirit. It whispers the same question that once stirred the heart of a small boy on a throne much too big for him. What will you rebuild? What idols will you tear down, the ones inside you, the ones around you? What truth will you carry when the world forgets again?